Hello dear students, welcome to our channel. இந்த வீடியோல என்ன பார்க்க போறோம் அப்படின்னா 12th standard இங்கிலீஷ்ல ப்ரோஸ்ல இருக்கக்கூடிய இந்த half yearly examinationக்கான இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் எதுன்றதை பார்க்க போறோம். இதை பார்க்கறதுக்கு முன்னால நீங்க இன்னும் நம்ம சேனலை சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணலைன்னா மறக்காம சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணிட்டு இந்த வீடியோக்கும் லைக் பண்ணிட்டு உங்க ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் கூட இந்த வீடியோவை ஷேர் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. இந்த 6 ப்ரோஸ்லையும் இருக்கக்கூடிய இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் வித் ஆன்சரோட நான் உங்களுக்கு இந்த பிடிஎஃப்ல டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ண போறோம். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ப்ரோஸ் 1 பாருங்க. What were the various jobs undertaken by the little boys? ரொம்ப முக்கியமான கொஸ்டின் இது. Shining shoes, selling wild strawberries, hawking newspapers, guiding tourists and running errands were the various jobs undertaken by the little boys. How did the narrator help the boys on Sunday? இதுவும் ரொம்ப முக்கியமான கொஸ்டின். The narrator helped the boys by taking them in his car to their native village Poleta. Describe the appearance of Nicola and Jacopo. Nicola put on a worn jersey and cut off khaki pants. Jacopo wore a shortened army tunic gathered in loose folds about his skinny frame. They had brown skins, tangled hair and dark earnest eyes. What made the boys work so hard? இதுவும் ரொம்ப முக்கியமான question. The money needed for their sister's treatment made the boys work so hard. What was Lucia suffering from? Lucia was suffering from tuberculosis of the spine. Whom did the narrator meet at the outskirts of Verona? The narrator met two brothers, Nicola and Jacopo, at the outskirts of Verona. Describe the girl with whom the boys were talking to in the cubicle. The girl with whom the boys were talking to in the cubicle was their sister Lucia. She was about 20 years old. She was propped up on the pillows, wearing a pretty lace jacket. Her eyes were soft and tender. She resembled her brothers and she was suffering from tuberculosis of the spine. Who took the author to the cubicle? A pleasant-looking woman dressed in the white nurse uniform with steel-rimmed spectacles took the author to the cubicle. She seemed to be a trained nurse. First prosல இந்த 8 questions important. அப்புறம் second prose பாருங்க. Does the author like drinking tea with sugar? Give reasons. No, the author does not like drinking tea with sugar. According to him, tea with sugar tastes only of sugar, not the flavor of tea. Sugar destroys the flavor of tea. ரொம்ப முக்கியமான question, இந்த triple star போட்டது எல்லாமே. Whom does the author call misguided people? What is his advice to them? The author calls those who drink tea with sugar as misguided people. He advises them to drink tea without sugar for a fortnight and then they will never ruin their tea again by adding sugar. How does adding sugar affect the taste of tea? Tea with sugar tastes of only sugar, not tea. Sugar ruins the taste of tea. It is the same as adding sugar to just plain hot water. Thus, adding sugar affects the taste of tea. What is the second golden rule in the preparation of tea? Very important. Tea should be made in small quantities in a teapot, which should be made of china or earthenware. This is the second golden rule in the preparation of tea. Mention the countries in which tea is a part of civilization. Tea is a part of civilization in Ireland, Australia, England, New Zealand, India and Ceylon. Which tea does the author prefer, Indian tea or China tea? The author prefers Indian tea. What are the author's views on China tea? China tea is economical. One can drink it without milk, but there is not much stimulation in it. One does not feel wiser, braver or more optimistic after drinking it. Why does the author refer to himself as being in a minority? Majority of the people drink tea with sugar, but the author drinks tea without sugar. So he refers to himself as a minority. At the prose 3. How did the boy who played the mechanic lose his eyesight? ரொம்ப முக்கியமான question. His mother and father were drunk. His mother threw a lantern at his father. It missed and it broke over the child's head and shoulders. He suffered severe third-degree burns on the upper part of his body and lost both his eyes. What injuries did the Bernard couple sustain in the accident? Dr. Bernard had 11 broken ribs and a perforated lung. His wife had a badly fractured shoulder. How does Dr. Bernard know the boy who played the trolley's driver? A few years earlier, Dr. Bernard had closed a hole in the boy's heart. Later, he had a malignant tumor of the bone and came back to the hospital. Thus, Dr. Bernard knows the boy who played the trolley's driver. What was the profound lesson இருக்கு பாருங்க. ரொம்ப 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 முக்கியமான கொஸ்டின். எத்தனை ரொம்ப போட முடியுமோ போட்டுக்கிறங்க. The business of living is joy in the real sense of the word, not just for pleasure, amusement and recreation. What we have lost is not important, but what we have left is important. How was the unattended trolley put to use? One day, Dr. Bernard visited Cape Town's Red Cross Children's Hospital. There, two boys took up the roles of a driver and a mechanic of the unattended food trolley. The mechanic, who was totally blind, was galloping along behind the trolley. The driver, who has only one arm, steered the trolley by scraping his foot on the floor. What were the problems the trolley's driver suffered from? The trolley driver had a hole in his heart. Dr. Bernard had successfully closed the hole in the boy's heart. As he had a malignant tumor of the bone, he came back to the hospital. A few days before the race, his shoulder and arm were amputated. There was a little hope of his recovery. From what roles did the duo take up? The duo took up the roles of a driver and a mechanic of the food trolley. What happened to the doctor couple when they were crossing the street? A few years ago, Dr. Bernard and his wife met with an accident. When the doctor couple were crossing the street, a car had hit the doctor and knocked him into his wife. She was thrown into the other lane and struck by a car coming from the opposite direction. Why does Dr. Bernard describe the blind boy as a walking horror? The blind boy was a walking horror with a disfigured face. His long flap of skin hanging from the side of his neck to his body was horrible. As the wound healed around his neck, his lower jaw became gripped in a mass of fibrous tissue. The only way this little boy could open his mouth to raise his head. So Dr. Bernard describes the blind boy as a walking horror. Then prose 4. Why did Hilary become clumsy-fingered and slow-moving? Hilary became clumsy-fingered and slow-moving because the oxygen set was exhausted. When did Hilary feel a sense of freedom and well-being? Hilary felt a sense of freedom and well-being when he cut steps down off the south summit. How did mountaineers belay? The mountaineers tied a rope to a shaft which was fixed hard in the snow. Then they would crawl along holding onto the rope. What did Hilary do with his wet boots? Hilary heated his wet boots over the flame of the primus stove and softened them. Why was the original jest fading away? Time was passing and the ridge seemed never ending, so their original jest was fading away. What did the photograph portray? The photograph portrayed the north ridge showing the North Col and the old route. The route had been made famous by the great climbers of 1920s and 1930s. The soft snow was difficult and dangerous. Why? The soft snow was difficult and dangerous because it was slippery. It could not bear the weight of Hilary and gave way suddenly. And prose 5. Why did Mamanar hand over the chair to the villagers to retain it? Mamanar gave the chair to the villagers for propping up the corpses of the village. He understood that the need of the people was genuine. Therefore, he handed over the chair to the villagers to retain it for the same. What was offered to Mamanar by Amma? A tumbler of buttermilk seasoned with asafoetida was offered to Mamanar by their mother. How did Mamanar handle the chair at home? Every morning, Mamanar wiped the chair. He carried and put it down carefully. He sat on it while chewing betel leaves. What happened to the visitor when he sat on the stool? The visitor fell down and toppled over when he sat on the stool. How was the chair made and how did the villagers react to it? Everyone agreed to elder sister's suggestion of dark colored chair. A comfortable chair was made. People in the village came in hordes to see the chair. An old man lifted it and commanded the carpenter. When did the children get over the fear of sitting on the chair? Sugandhi from the neighboring street came by and put up her baby brother on the chair. It was only then the children sat on the chair without fear. Why were the two chairs compared to Rama Lakshmana? The two chairs were compared to Rama Lakshmana because they were made of same wood. They were uniform in shape. Describe the stool that the narrator's family had. The stool in the narrator's family measured a 3/4 foot. It was Three-legged, if one did not place one's weight exactly on the stool, it would topple over. Then prose 6. How would liberty cause universal chaos? If liberty entailed the pedestrians to walk down the middle of the road, then the end of such liberty would be universal chaos. What is the foundation of social conduct? A reasonable consideration for the rights of feelings of others is the foundation of social conduct. What does the rule of the road mean? The rule of the road means the liberties of all may be preserved and the liberties of everybody must be curtailed. Define liberty as perceived by A.G. Gardiner. Liberty is not only a personal affair but also a social conduct. Where was the stout lady walking? The stout lady was walking in the middle of the road. What does the traffic policeman at Piccadilly Circus symbolize? The traffic policeman symbolizes public liberty. What is liberty according to the old lady? According to the old lady, she had got liberty to walk down the middle of the road and she thought she was going to walk wherever she liked. ஸோ ஒரு 47 கொஷின்ஸ் கொடுத்துருக்கோம். இது எல்லாத்தையுமே வந்து இப்போ நான் கொடுத்துருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த ஆன்சரையே அப்படியே வந்து நீங்கள் படிச்சுக்கிட்டிங்கன்னா இதுலேருந்து உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஹாஃப் இயர்லி எக்ஸாமினேஷனில் நீங்கள் கண்டிப்பாக கொஷின் ஆன்சர்ஸ் வந்து ப்ரோஸ்லேருந்து அட்டன் பண்ணிடலாம். தேங்க்யூ.